The books, if you will, they came as a result of questions from the community. The only thing that I really wrote before arriving here, and I've always loved to write, but the only thing that I wrote before I came here, was my master's and a dissertation. When I left Morehouse, the writing just flowed, and it was driven by questions from people in the community. I still have not grasped how we put people on pedestals, and sometimes this can be good, but most of the time it's not. We put people on pedestals, and we expect them to answer things in a particular way or say things for us. And even though I wasn't really thrilled about that, I have an obligation to the community. So I began to write, use your talent. Each book that has been written dealt with a particular issue that was brought to my attention by enough people that I felt that something needed to be said about it that reflected our way, our interests as a people. So when you look through the series of books, there is a pattern. At the beginning, I began talking about the problems, the issues that seem to be the most destructive to us as a people. So Negroes and other essays, and homosexuality, and the excuse interracial stuff. As the books moved on, the writing about what was wrong really began to wear at me. So I began to try to write some books that talked about solution things. Asafo, Warrior's Guide, and Complementarity. Those books were geared toward trying to find some solutions that centered, which was the last book I wrote. All these things are geared toward trying to find or trying to frame some solutions that were practical for people to apply at this point in time. Out of that grew the evening classes here and online from people who were wanting to have this as a discussion, and us not really having the time, so we had to frame it within the context of a class once a week, and that's been going very well. So and it's out of that, and I'm really pretty much a classroom teacher, but folks will have called from all over. So I've essentially traveled, many states, to the UK, to the islands, lecturing to family, I like to say family or community, about these issues, and I talk about whatever it is that people want me to talk about and discuss. And in fact, right now I'm trying to finish 2 books so that the Queen, who is an English major, can edit them. One of them, both of them are due out in November. One of them is dealing with the warrior's character, since seems like the greatest complaint that I have been hearing from people over about the last 5 years is the level of disrespect that exists within the conscious community, less known the quote-unquote regular black community, but the level of disrespect that exists within the conscious community, whether we're talking about men, women, whether we're talking about elder and youth, whatever we're talking about, the disrespect is a major factor. Yeah, the other book is dealing more with, it's more academic, because I'll use terms, culture, nationalism, nation, ethnicity, person, individualism that I really haven't defined to my satisfaction. So when those terms that people are asking me the most about in terms of clarification, I'm trying to clarify them in this book for people. But our focus is on the school. We looked at a number of independent schools over the years, and we came to the conclusion, because we saw so many of our schools fail. In fact, while we were teaching at Morehouse, the 9 years that I taught there, every year one of the black schools in Atlanta was folding, and they were not being replaced on a yearly basis. So we saw that there was a connection between, in terms of those that were successful, between the school or the program and a business that was separate, that fed the program, that financed it, because tuition is not enough. I mean, even when you're looking, I know this isn't about education, but for those people who are interested or concerned about this, even when you look at these elite private schools that belong to somebody else, they have major funding drives which are separate from the school itself, because their tuition, which is extremely high, is not enough to take care of the bills and keep the school alive.
Right. Yeah, you're right about that. Definitely. Yeah, and we definitely need to incorporate education into this, because one of the things, I talk to a lot of people every day, but I was just talking to someone. I can't remember who it was. I think it was yesterday, actually. But we were talking about how we were actually talking about the topic tonight, and we were talking about how on your college campuses, a lot of the professors at these European professors, especially at these colleges, a lot of them are homosexual and lesbian. Okay, and we were talking about how this agenda is really pushed in the university, in the colleges.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What'd you say?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's changed a lot. I graduated back in '94. It's changed so much since then. I was talking to this person who's they're working on a master's right now in forensics. And they were talking about how the gay and lesbian organizations have gained so much power over the last few years. And whereas you say anything that may be construed as anti-gay or anti-homosexual, you can be expelled from school.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We have a political movement.
Exactly.
And we're trying to pretend that it has something to do with biology and the rest of it. That's because that political movement is strong enough to make us accept that, or to make some of us accept that. One of the things that I'll talk about sometimes, I left Morehouse not necessarily of my own accord. They have what's called a Crown Forum there, and the person gets to speak to the entire student body, and at that time I was really the only faculty who got to do that. I was very popular at the time, and I understand why now. And I was giving this speech explaining what warriorhood was about, and I explained how effeminate males do not make good warriors. And that afternoon, outside of my class, there was a reporter from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution taking notes outside of my class. Some of the students escorted the person away. At that point, the troubles, if you will, began. So I ended up, and for those folks who are in graduate school in particular, they know that fellowships, scholarships, all these things are political. It's not just given to you because you are so brilliant. So I ended up, like I said, that first year, which was the year that our daughter was getting ready to enter high school, ended up with a fellowship that paid my entire salary, and I didn't have to come on campus, didn't have to teach anything. The next year, they gave me my salary, but dismissed me from my teaching and student advising responsibilities. So they paid me 2 years, and that was done, in my opinion, to have the students who knew me and who were appreciative, if you will, of what I was saying and doing, graduate, move on, and then you'd have 2 years of students who did not know me. So at that point in time, you could let me go. The popularity was such that I had no tenure. I had not finished my graduate work, anything. So there was nothing that required them to keep me there, but they didn't want to do that at that time. The problem for me at that time, and I was explaining it to the students, and since I've left, it has grown enormously, and not just there, but at all of these schools where we're talking about historically black, historically white, what have you. The problem for me was not that people have their preferences, which is a whole nother discussion, but that this was being pushed. This was being pushed, and it was being pushed in a very aggressive fashion. So when I begin to speak about that or deal with that, then all of the might, if you will, came against me. And it really surprised me because I didn't realize how deep it was. I didn't realize how empowered it was. I didn't realize how connected it was with the police. I didn't realize how connected it was with the criminal justice system. I didn't realize how connected it was with the church system here in Atlanta. I didn't realize how it was connected with things that had been in place for a long time.